The cross empowers a new behavior. Some might say, "Oh, Pastor Peter, you're just talking about the finished work of Jesus and us becoming new creation, and then we can do whatever we want." No. You become a love slave of the Lord Jesus Christ. And it is this power of the gospel that empowers a new life of dedication. Look at what Paul writes here. This is Bible logic. Colossians 3. If then you were raised or resurrected with Christ, seek those things which are above, where Christ is, sitting at the right hand of God. Set your mind on things above, not on things on the earth. For you died, and your life is hidden with Christ in God. So notice the two things that he puts as a foundation here is that you have been risen with Christ and you have died with Christ. His death, his resurrection affects you. You're included. And since that is the case, he says, therefore put to death fornication, uncleanness, passion, evil desires, covetousness, which is idolatry. Put off all these: anger, wrath, malice, blasphemy, filthy language out of your mouth. Don't lie to one another. So notice here what the premise is. Paul doesn't say, well, if you talk filthy, if you're angry, if you fornicate, if you're unclean, it's going to make your pastor very disappointed. You don't want to hurt your mama. You don't want to hurt your pastor. Oh, it's going to hurt your reputation. Those could be all motivations. But that is not the Bible logic. The Bible logic is, see who you are. Don't you see who you are? You died with Christ, and your life is hidden with Christ in God, and you are risen with Christ. Get a true perspective of who you are. And since you now see who you are, therefore, you don't need to fornicate. You don't need to tell dirty jokes. You don't need to cuss. You don't need to have an anger outburst, because you are a new creation. You see, in the epistles, in the New Testament, in the New Covenant, after the day of Pentecost, all the warnings, all the admonitions are not on the basis, do this or else, but it's on the basis of who you are. You see, identify with who you are. This is a message that needs to be proclaimed. You see, I say our society needs to hear this. They haven't heard it. Church members, many places haven't heard that. Now, I trust if you're a part of the Toronto Celebration Church and you're acquainted with our ministry, maybe you receive teachings through different ways. You've heard this in many different ways from many different perspectives, and so it's begun to sink into you. But I want to say, we who are preachers today, we're not greater than Paul. We're not greater than Jesus. Paul didn't think he could change people's lives by just sharing principles and wisdom nuggets and motivational speeches, or to scare them, saying if you don't do this, then God's going to punish you. He didn't do any of that. So why do we think that we can change people's lives? Pastors seem to think if I just tell them, 10 ways to overcome this temptation, and they can memorize all 10, then no, we're not greater than Jesus. We're not greater than Paul. We need to use gospel therapy, the therapy of the cross and the resurrection, which is, don't you know who you are? You are crucified and risen with Christ. Now act like you are. Be yourself. Don't try to be a Christian. Be who you are, but first get to know who you are. Oh, I'm a new creation. I'm crucified with Christ. Christ lives in me. This is an outstanding, brilliant, phenomenal message that we have, and yet many haven't heard it. Oh, this is therapeutic. Be who you are. Spend some time on it. Think about it. Meditate on it. Who am I really? Maybe you heard all your life, well, you're this or you're that. Maybe even your parents, they didn't mean anything bad with it, but they said you're a little bit like this and you're a little bit like that, and you take after your grandfather in this, and they mention different negative traits. Now stop and think who you really are. you're identified with Jesus Christ. That's therapeutic.